CL, and in today's video I thought it would be a really cool idea to give you a tour of my Goodreads shelves. And this is mainly for people out there who have Goodreads but are kind of still stuck with the standard shelves that Goodreads starts you off with. So I thought it would be cool to give you a tour of how I have customized my shelves and how I organize my books. Maybe it will spark some ideas with you on a way that you can better organize your books out there on Goodreads. But yes, if you are interested, please stay tuned. And if you're not interested, consider perusing my other videos. There might be something out there that may interest you. But other than that, let's go ahead and get into the tour. And let me go ahead and change my camera angle, and let's go ahead and get started. All right, so this is the home page to my Goodreads. Not really much to show here. I'm sure if you have a Goodreads, this is all familiar to you. But I do want to share my 2017 reading challenge goal. I set the goal for 100. I've already read 22 books. That means I'm 8 books ahead of schedule, which is really rare for me. Normally I'm like really behind. So I hope I can keep the trajectory going, and maybe somewhere down the line I can increase my reading goal from 100 to a little more. But you know what? Let's not jump the gun. Let's keep it at 100 and just keep working towards that number. But let me go ahead and click on my books so you can see my shelves that I have set up for my Goodreads. And of course, we have the standard bookshelves, which I'm pretty sure you can't edit. At least I haven't been able to figure it out. We have all the books that I've read. Currently reading. Oh, let's go to currently reading. So this is what I'm currently reading. It's pretty much all over the place. The Name of the Wind, I swear to you, this book is going to be my nemesis. It has such a good rating on Goodreads, and for whatever reason, I am having so much trouble getting through it. Like, I just am not picking it up as often as I should. But maybe this can be my yearly book. Like, maybe I can just read a couple pages a day, and by the end of the year I will complete it, because I'm curious what the story is about, but at the same time my attention span is all over the place. Like, I cannot help but pick up multiple books at a time. And When Breath Becomes Air, I'm almost done with this book, but I had to return it to the library, and I rechecked it out on Overdrive, but I have to wait in line. And it's really sad because this book is really short, and I'm just like a handful of pages till the end of the book, but I do want to finish it to completion because it was really interesting. The Hero's Guide to Being an Outlaw, I have started this more than a month ago, and I love the first 2 books, but once again I have like book ADD and I can't seem to focus on one book. So this one I am kind of nursing throughout the month, and eventually I will be done with it. Bedrock Faith is the book that I'm reading for what is it, a read along, and I'm currently behind but hope to get it done by month end. Do Parents Matter? This one seems really interesting to me, but I haven't read much of it yet. The Thousandth Floor is a book that I'm reading for a readathon, and I'm almost done. Memories of the Afterlife. These are the books that I really gravitate towards. Like, I just can't help it. I have to read these types of books every so often, or I start to get like an itch for it. Like, I get a craving for like books about the afterlife, books about aliens, books about paranormal. I just have those cravings. All right, what else? What other shelves do we got here? All right, I'm going to skip these standard shelves because I don't really pay much attention to those. Those are already pre-made by Goodreads. So my first set of shelves that I customize start with book rec, and those are book recommendations. So the first one is book recommendations by Booktube. I have 0 because I just created this shelf. But these are I want to start adding books in here that are recommended by other booktubers, just to keep track of them. I also have a tracker more specifically in my bullet journal for reading, but I also want it on my Goodreads because I just want it there. And the next shelf down is book recommendations, Rhodes, and that is book recommendations from Chris Rhodes because he is one of my favorite book reviewers. I really like his method of reviewing books, and the books he tends to gravitate towards are also books that interest me as well. Like, we have the same interests. So if there's a book that he tends to praise, more often than not, those books are the type of books that I tend to gravitate to as well. There are some books I need to add on here, but I have 4 under this shelf. And the next shelf is Book Recommendations S. Donahue, and that is a shelf specifically dedicated to Steve Donahue's recommendations or the books that I hear about on his channel. And I mainly created a shelf specifically for his recommendations because he reads a lot of nonfiction. He also reads fiction as well, but he promotes a lot of nonfiction, and I want to read more nonfiction because I tend to read like self-help books and that sort of thing, but I want to be more well-rounded in my nonfiction, and he recommends a lot of books that I just don't have on my radar. So that's why I dedicated a shelf specifically dedicated to Steve's books that I hear about on his channel, whether that be nonfiction, fiction, just whatever sounds interesting to me. I will stick it on here, and I know where it came from. The next shelf I have is buddy read, upcoming buddy reads, and I only have one so far. This isn't occurring till April, but I just have a shelf dedicated to buddy reads, so it's on my radar for the future. The next shelf is Overdrive TBR, and I have this shelf because if I'm browsing my Overdrive app, I like to place books that look interesting or sound interesting on this shelf, so I know if I don't feel like physically going to the library, I can just go out to the Overdrive app, and there's plenty of books out there that interest me that I can easily check out from home. The next shelf is Purchase 2017 Need to Read. So these are all the books that I have purchased in 2017 that I still have not read. And I created this shelf specifically so I can track the books that I'm buying, to kind of keep track of how many books I'm buying, if I'm reading them, mainly to see if just my book buying is out of control, to just have a visual of what I'm buying, how often I'm buying things, and whether or not I am reading them. So there's a big difference, like whether you buy books and you read them, or if you buy books and they sit on your shelves for eternity, you know? And the next shelves that I'm going to show you are dedicated to readathons. Like if you look on to the side here, I started with readathon, and then I put which readathon it is, and then once I'm done with the readathon, I will delete the shelf. So for example, one of the readathons that is occurring throughout February is Emojiathon. So I just kind of put my loose TBR on this shelf, and then there's another readathon taking place, which is Time Hopathon, and I also put the books that I want to read or think I'll read on this shelf, and as I read them, I will remove them from the shelf. Of course, it will go to my red shelf, but this is just a good way for me, that especially if I'm participating in multiple readathons, that I can keep track of what books I plan to read for which readathon, and once that readathon is over, I'll just delete the shelf. But I will continue to keep track of my readathons by creating a new shelf and putting readathon in the beginning of the name. My next shelf is called Reading Hiatus. Now, this is a shelf that I have created because it's for books that I did not technically DNF. It's not like I DNF the book and don't have any interest in finishing it. It's more so I have interest in the book. I probably read partially through it, but for whatever reason, maybe I had to return it back to the library, or I just wasn't in the mood for the time. Then I will stick it on my reading hiatus shelf so I can come back to it at a later time. I Am Hero, so the book that I have on here right now is a manga, I Am Hero, Volume 1, and I read halfway through, and then I returned it to the library, and when it came time for me to check out library books again, it just wasn't one that I put in my pile, and I just didn't have that immediate need, but I did put it on this shelf for me to come back later. And the last 2 shelves are top 10 shelves. Now, in the beginning of the year, I had thought it was a good idea to make like a top 10 books that I own that I want to read, but I found that these top 10 shelves actually do not work for me because I'm such a spontaneous reader. I'm a mood. It depends on my mood what I want to read. So in the beginning of the year, I was like, well, these are the top 10 books that I want to read for the year, so maybe I'll focus on these books, and it just doesn't work for me. Like, I am too spontaneous of a reader for me to have these kind of shelves. So actually, I'm going to delete these 2 shelves. Top 10 own and want to read. Top 10 want to read. Top 10 want to read. That was books that sounded really interesting that I really wanted to read, but I don't own. And you know what? I am going to delete these 2 shelves here. So yeah, those are my current Goodreads shelves. I'm always continuously adding and removing things, just kind of figuring out what works for me, what doesn't work for me. But I hope I was able to give you some ideas. Also, if you do have a Goodreads, please consider adding me as a friend. I really do use Goodreads a lot. I may not write a lot of book reviews, like as far as a written review, but I do like to see what everybody else is reading, and I'm totally nosy and will browse through your shelves because I'm just curious what books you've read, how you've rated things, and I like to see what types of shelves you have out on your page. So yes, if you have a Goodreads account, consider adding me as a friend. Other than that, I hope this was interesting, and that's all I have for you right now, and I will see you later.